Hello, you're welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be sharing my experience with navigating distance marriage. Having to go through a distance marriage is not for the faint-hearted, trust me. It's really not an easy decision or choice to make, but for so many reasons, there may come a time in your marriage where you may have to take that decision. And basically, I'm here to share how my experience was and certain things that I had to do to navigate that season of my life. So, before I go right into those fine details, let me give you background gist. So basically, I got married in 2019, have been married for 5 years. This year is going to make it 6 years in marriage. So shortly after I got married, I took in and I gave birth to my son, my first child, in January 2020. And during that first year of marriage, I was seeking for better job opportunities. And even before I got married, I had applied for a certain job with the state government. It now turned out that it was after I got married that that door opened. From nowhere, I got a call that I should come for the interview. While I was pregnant, I went for the interview, and that was it. I didn't get any response until I think close to when I was about to deliver. I now got an offer letter calling me to come resume my work. But as God will have it, COVID happened, and after I gave birth, I think I had a few months to be with my child. And when my child was about 6 months, I now had to go resume work. I didn't want to take the offer in all honesty. But by the time I had to have a conversation with my husband, we had to weigh our options. The salary was better. The job flexibility was better to give me room to at least care for my child. Then there was opportunity for career growth in the job. So weighing those options, we now decided, okay, I should take the job. And basically, the first like 2 or 3 months of that job wasn't easy. If you know how government job is, when you start, it's not when you get paid. It may take like at least maybe 2 months or so, or 3 months by the time they finish all the paperwork and everything, and you're now in their system before you start getting your salary. So the first 3 months was not easy, but thank God for the support of my husband and also my parents. They were able to help. And another thing that helped me was where I got the job, my parents were there, at least at that time. My dad was there, my mom, they were there. So they were at least a support system. So the first thing I would say is when dealing with distance marriage, you and your partner, you have to be on the same page. Oh. You just have to be on the same page. Have conversations about how long are you people going to be distant? First, what is the reason for the distance? Most times it's for better opportunities. Either one person has to go first, the other person joins. But there must be that conversation, and both of you have to be on the same page. So at least that was sorted out for me. I had the backing of my husband. In fact, he was even the one pushing and encouraging me. If it were left to only me, we die here. I know they go anywhere, but that was it. Then the next thing is support. Support system is important. If you are going to a place that maybe you're going to be distance and your husband is not there and you do not have support, it's going to be really challenging. Not that you can't navigate that season, but trust me, it's going to be very tough. So it's always good to have a form of support so that you won't feel the impact so much. You may feel the impact when it comes to companionship, when it comes to sexual intimacy, but when it comes to other things, at least physical support, some form of emotional support, some if you have kids, someone that can help to relieve the pressure from having to deal with the kids alone, someone you can talk to as per friendships and all, it goes a long way. So back to my gist. So when I now settled in and all that, everything was okay. we now had to like plan the first visit. He had to come see us. So that's another thing. There has to be a plan for visitations. Being distant for a long time is not good. And I can say that when he came, I don't, when did I take him for my second? I think she was sure on one of those our visits, either when he came or when I came. By the time I'd settled in, we had now planned that okay, when he can come off work, he would come. So I think during the festive season, he came. Then subsequently, since my work was more flexible, I had to structure my work and my shifts in such a way that I could come every month, stay for like a week, or at most every 6 weeks. And that helped. Thank God my son was young, so it didn't really, as per the challenge I had to deal with was basically me, as per emotionally and all that. It was basically me. My son was still young to really understand what was going on. He was under 1 year old, he wasn't really aware. So I didn't have to be saddled with that burden of paying attention to myself and having questions from my kids on why is daddy not here, why is this, why is that. So that's helped. So basically, so he came visiting regularly. I too would go to visit, and that helped. But some of the challenges I faced when having to navigate distance marriage, man, I know the common thing people would say first would be sexual intimacy, which of course was a challenge for me, but that wasn't even my number one challenge. For me, my number one challenge was companionship. Even if I had my parents around, we were just newly married. I would say newly married because we're like roughly a year we're roughly a year plus when I left, and the marriage is fresh. You get marriage and courtship are two different things. Even if you've courted someone for 10 years, once you're married to the person, it's a whole different level. So you can't compare. You understand? You're getting to understand each other, close range and all, then the distance. And so I would say during the course of the distance, one of the challenges I faced was companionship. And before I forget, let me also mention another challenge I faced after we had reunited back was the challenge of connecting again as we used to be before the distance. So it was a big challenge for me connecting back that companionship because we had now gotten used to the distance. So he had gotten used to his routine, had gotten used to my routine, having to learn to now work together as a team and be in each other's lives was a major challenge. But let me continue. So basically, to deal with the challenge of companionship, we had to be talking all the time. We got this CUG line, I think they call it closed user group line, and we were talking almost every time. So it was free. You pay, you register, you load 1,000 airtime, and with that you can talk free, unlimited or something like that. So we were always communicating. You wake up in the morning, you talk. On your way to work, you talk every time we're always talking. And it reminded me of when we were cutting, when we would talk like that, midnight calls and all that. So that was it, video calls. We were always talking. So communication is key when dealing with distance. If you're at distance and you're not communicating, you're just giving room for the enemy to actually break the bond or the union that you and your spouse share. So you must prioritize communication. In fact, it's really helped. Yes, we're not seeing each other, we're not touching each other, we're not close range and all that. But at least we're present in each other's lives. It was easy for him to know where I was, what I was doing, and that helped us too with accountability. It really helped with accountability. I knew where he was. He knew where I was. We were always communicating video calls and all that. Then also down to sexual intimacy, that was also a challenge, especially on his part. Naturally, men are more sexual beings than women. So that was like one of his major challenge. So that was even why we had to prioritize seeing each other regularly. It was a priority because there was no other way to satisfy ourselves than each other. You understand? So yes, anytime we had that challenge and we were not present, he would call, we would talk about it and all that. It's your spouse now. You can do all those kind of sexual talk with your spouse. As it's not with another person and all. I miss you and all that. You talk and I wish we were here. Blah blah blah. I don't have to go into the fine details, right? But you understand what I'm saying. So, but we would always be vulnerable with each other. There was no point pretending. The two of you are one. You're naked and you're not ashamed. So your ability to actually open up, oh, I really miss you, and I'll be like, oh, don't worry, would plan. So plan, and anytime we were together, it just had to be special, back to back. You guys like back to back to fill up the tank, now. So that was how we dealt with sexual intimacy. Then another challenge I faced, I now got pregnant. Hormones no go allow me. Like I was always crying. I was always frustrated. I now got a house help because at some point my mom left. I think after my brother's wedding, and she stayed a bit, and by then my son was a little bit older. It was over a year. So I now enrolled him in school when I knew she was leaving. And it was lonely. So I was always frustrated. The hormones were messing me up, always crying, calling my husband, I can't do this anymore. I can't take this. Like I'm done. I'm done. We have to end this. I don't think I can continue like this. We have to just come back together. So I now started applying for jobs, like looking for other job opportunities. I was desperate. I was praying. I was like, God, I need a job. I don't want to come back to Abuja, which is where me and my husband were at the time before I left to the new location. I don't want to go back and not have a job because I've always worked. I've never really known what it is to be like a stay-at-home mom. Not because there's anything wrong with being a stay-at-home mom, but it wasn't something I was used to. So I just needed a job. Was a job a criteria for me coming back to be with my husband? At some point, no. Because I told God that once I come back from maternity leave, with or without a job, I'm not coming back. Like once I come back to be with my husband to deliver my child where he was, once I come back and my maternity leave ends and I'm supposed to go back, I am not going back. So when I was even coming back, I packed all my things. I was like, God, now me and you, we did this thing. I want a job. I need a job. In fact, I need a job. But whether I get the job or not, I am not coming back. And God actually showed himself faithful because 1 month after I gave birth to my daughter, while my maternity leave was still on, I got a job. And I now resigned from the other job. So actually, I didn't go back. So that's like the summary. So certain things that helped me deal with the whole distance thing. The first thing I would say is communication. Communication really helped build the bond of friendship. And that's another thing. When you are distant, it tests the quality of your relationship. If the quality of your relationship is only sexual, when you are not there, chances that marriage would stay faithful and strong and slim. But when the quality of your marriage is built on God and on friendship, trust me, you can weather any storm together. So because our marriage was built on God, it was easy for us to stay faithful to each other, even when there were times we felt like giving up, we were frustrated, and we missed each other. We just wanted to be back to each other. But even when I was distant, the thought of infidelity didn't cross my mind. And even when I would ask my husband, how are you coping? Really tell me, how are you coping? Are there times like you feel like you're tempted, or is any lady making advances, blah blah blah? And you'll be like, in all honesty, when he comes back from work, he just puts his energy into what he does, which is his ministry, his calling, like what's the his NGO and all that. So he just focuses on that. And that was even one thing that was now a challenge when I came back because he was used to burying himself with work. The challenge we now faced was like I was competing with his work because back to back he was always dealing with work, and I'll be like, you don't have time for me, you're not spending time with me, So you understand. So I was just trying to say that communication is key when it comes to building a strong marriage, irrespective of the distance. Another thing that helped us is we had a timeline. So I told him that this one that I'm working here is temporary, that in all honesty, I want us to come back together. And I told him that once I come back for delivery, I'm not coming back. And I made him understand I'm packing everything. So whatever you need to do, just know that I'm not coming back here. So you need to have a timeline. And you have to agree on a timeline. As a woman, you have to also stand your ground. I know there are some times where you want something, your husband did not want it. Make him understand that this is it. The family cannot be apart. I told my husband, I said, see, I have we have a 1 year old who, okay, at some point clocked 2 while I was pregnant. So, and I told him, imagine me having to deal with two children. One is 2, the other one is under 1 year alone. That I'm not going to do that. So it's important to communicate your desires with your spouse and have a timeline. Agree on a timeline. Let the distance not be indefinite, because the truth is, the longer you stay in a distance marriage, the more you give room for both of you to lose the connection you have with each other. When you are with someone, the two of you will get to understand each other better. A phone will not help you achieve that so much. Yes, no matter how much you communicate, there's something about being in the same space together, being used to each other, getting used to living with each other. Doing that every now and then, once in a while, is really not the best. And you may not see the impact at the initial, because especially when there are kids in the picture, you use your kids to mark so many things. But when the kids now leave the picture, you will now notice the void that actually exists between you and your spouse. So it's important to have a timeline and have a plan and stick to it. Let there be an end in view. I remember when I was going through this challenge, and I listened to, I think, Laju Irene. I think she did something on this Stand Married, and I listened to Pastor Kingsley Okonkwo, and he outlined everything. You can check his YouTube channel, something that has to do with managing like long distance marriage. And he said so many things that made so much sense to me, and it fueled my resolve for the need to just come back together with my partner. Then another thing that helped was accountability, the fact that we were accountable to each other and also with other people. So to each other, like I said, we always communicated, we were open, we were sincere about our feelings, we were vulnerable with each other. Any struggles we went through, we always told each other. Then basically church for me, the church community helped me. When I went to that new location, I had to identify a church to help at least continually build my faith. There's something about joining church online, but there's also something about joining church on site. It really helps. So attending church physically, identifying a church, a community helped me. So identifying a community that helps with your value system will go a long way to provide support. Then also family and friends. I had friends. So where I went to do the work wasn't in a location that I wasn't familiar with. So I had extended family that I always spent time with. I really didn't have so many friends, but I had a few. And whenever they were in town, we would always see. The ones I couldn't see, I would communicate with them whenever I was frustrated or tired or emotional. I could call and vent and all that. So another thing that helped is speaking to a professional. I know I had a spiritual father that I would always talk to and say, "Ah, Daddy, please, I don't think I can do this. I really want to reunite with my family, and I'm trusting God for a better job." And he would pray for me and say, "Don't worry, everything will be fine." So if you need to talk to someone, a professional, someone that's experienced, a mentor, please do so to keep your sanity. Don't bottle up those feelings. That sometimes you get frustrated, you get discouraged. don't give up, and just stay positive and always have an end in view. There's something about having an end in view. When you have an end in view, you have something to look forward to. And even when you feel like giving up along the way, it drives your resilience. So always have an end in view, and the end should not be infinity end. The end that is in the nearest future, as soon as possible, to reunite with your spouse. So to every woman out there who may be going through um, a distant marriage, I pray for God's grace and strength and wisdom for you to navigate this season of your life. And this is me encouraging you to stay strong, to think of possible ways to reunite with your family as soon as possible. And also, when you reunite with your family, give it time. Things may not come back to how they used to be immediately, but with time, with patience, and with perseverance, you would have a blissful home that you desire, and God will perfect every single thing that concerns you. So I hope my story has been helpful, and I hope the things I've shared would help you navigate this current season of your life. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, because on my channel I share relatable experiences about women, both my experience and experiences from other women, and also expertise, advice, and tips that would help you flourish as a woman and live purposefully as a woman, a wife, and a mother. Thank you for listening today. See you in my next video. Bye.